Lagi. Uy. Mustog na baron? Busy.
Sa Jumana pang paano? Holiday? Karoon mo na ha?
Ha?
Sa Jumana ang holiday? October.
Dili pa.
Sunod pag yan? Ano sa holiday na?
Thanksgiving.
Sunod December na no? Halloween day, di ba na holiday no?
Dili.
Mas dugay ang winter no? Summer pala kabulan. Mapan ma-enjoy ang summer, di pa taginita.
Kadyot ra kayo.
Taginita pa yan. Pila ka oras trabaho nung sa kan?
Sa,
Sa ka semana?
ako?
No?
60.
60 sa semana?
Ako dili.
40 ba? 40 hours?
Six times 5, 30 di ay 30. 60 ang duha ka semana.
to the graves, carrying the scent of damp earth and withered flowers. Aurora Bennett stood among the mourners, dressed in a simple black dress that clung to her slender frame. Her long, dark hair was neatly tied back, though a few loose strands danced with the breeze. Her pale complexion made her seem almost ghostly.
So we will be starting at 1 o'clock. I run my things on time, Logan stated. There will be a lot of awards given to those that helped and contributed towards everything, including those that died. It will be around 30 minutes before you guys are on stage. Once you hear your name, walk out and wait for all of your names to be called, and then we will allow every one of you to give your message, although you, Quinn, will be last. We have to save the best till last. It was a bit embarrassing to hear that, but at the same time, if he was honest, it was good to be appreciated for his work. This was the event that he wished to attend when defeating the Dalkey, and now he was getting a second chance. The ceremony went on with a lot of cheers from the crowd as names and awards were handed out. There was quite the light show performance being put on by the robots as well. It was spectacular to see. Those at home were enjoying it as well, as they watched and celebrated with food and drink. After that, though, it was time for the main cast to have their names read out. Now, please, for those that worked together and gave it their all to stop the Celestials from entering our world, Logan shouted. It wasn't the truth, but the truth was too hard for the people to handle, which was why it was twisted a little. AJ, Lucas, Vincent, Fex, Minnie, Peter, Chris. With each name being read out and them coming from behind the curtain out to the stage, the cheers were getting louder from the people there. So far, Chris had gotten the loudest cheers, gaining a lot of support from those that were in tour before. However, it was clear who would be the winner if it was a contest of who they would cheer for the loudest. And finally, the great hero, Quinn Talon, Logan shouted. However, after he had just said the first part of Quinn's name, the roars that erupted were so loud that it felt like the stage and ground were shaking. Quinn walked out, and he was blown away by all the cheering as he went over and stood in front of the stage, bowing to them all. He looked at all the people, the large smiles on their faces, everything they had done and were doing. It felt like, for the first time, he was being appreciated for everything that he had done. When looking into the crowd, Quinn did try to search for a few people. Unfortunately, he was unable to see Sam. Rupert was present, and Layla was there as well. When their two eyes met, he gave out a big smile, but there were a few more empty seats. Those from the Blade family didn't arrive? I understand Syl might be busy, but I thought Gordon, Shiro, or some others would have been here. It was strange, but the Blade family was treated as separate for these types of things. Maybe they just didn't feel welcome. Sign-on from the Greylash family couldn't be seen as well, so it didn't seem strange. At the end of the day, Quinn would just have to check it out later. Thinking this, the whole place had suddenly fallen silent. The loud cheers that were heard before, they had just stopped. Quinn was wondering what had happened, and whether he had suddenly gone deaf. No, that wasn't it, because there was something more strange. The people in front of him, the cameras, everything. It looked as if it was frozen in place. Their eyes, their smiles, all of them stayed the same, and Quinn was unable to hear the sound of their heartbeat or their breath. Worse, he couldn't even hear the sound of the wind. As Quinn turned to his left and his right, he looked at the others, but it seemed like he was the only one that could move for some reason. It's as if time has stopped, Quinn thought. He was getting ready to touch Peter, who was closest to him, until sound entered his ears, and he could hear the sound of footsteps. Turning his head, it was someone who was not invited to the event. Quinn, I think it's time for us to talk, Mundus smiled. just short of the stage and looked up at Quinn. Unlike before, there were no rash actions. He wasn't going to panic and just start a fight, especially since he should be in the Celestials' good books, at least for now. There was always a feeling that this would come. He just didn't expect that it would be this day and right now. It looks like you are in the middle of a celebration, Mundus smiled. You're right, Quinn replied, staying confident. He didn't want the one he was speaking with to feel like they had the upper hand in this situation. It would have been nice if you had come at another time. After saying those words, the smile looked to have disappeared from Mundus's face. I'll be honest, I would have visited sooner, but my body had taken quite a beating and needed a while to get back to what it was like, Mundus explained. 1 second, Mundus was on the ground, and the next, he was right up by the stage once again. It was as if he had teleported, but that couldn't be the case, because even when ability users used teleportation, Quinn would be able to witness their body blinking away, or a warping of some kind, but there was none of that, which led Quinn to come to one conclusion. He stopped time for me as well, and then moved here. There was a small thought or hope that this ability of Mundus couldn't be used on other Celestials, but it wouldn't make sense if it couldn't, because Quinn could still use his powers, and the Shadow as well. Honestly, when getting the massive amount of Celestial points, Quinn had hoped that even the other Celestials wouldn't be a match for him, but in this situation, right here and now, it wouldn't help much. The only thing that was going through Quinn's head was the hope that he didn't have to fight him. I have come here as a messenger, of course. You have done very well, Celestial BB, or should I say, Quinn Talon. You have shown some loyalty to us by taking out one of the most troublesome of Godslayers, Mundus explained. There was always a thought for Quinn. Why was Erin considered troublesome for them? According to Bliss, she was something that would help to fight Imortui. If Imortui and the Ancient Ones were going to do battle, then wouldn't it make sense for them to keep Erin? While thinking of this, the thought popped into Quinn's head. It had to be the reason why the system stated he would get a reward for handing over the Godslayer crystal. Just how Quinn had the Godslayer shadow power, other Celestials should also be able to have the same. Maybe there is some rule that the Ancient Ones set up, so Celestials don't use them, Quinn thought. As promised, the Celestials will no longer intervene with Earth, as long as the trouble doesn't reach us anyway. If the Earthlings are all to kill each other, or the Godslayers are to battle against each other, we shall leave things be. It was a relief for Quinn to hear this. There was enough trouble going on with the planet. Wait, I know this wasn't part of the deal, but will you be trying to use me more to eliminate other Godslayers from other universes? Quinn asked. There was a pause from Mundus for a little bit before answering. I know you wish to solve the problems with the Earthlings. Although you are having this big celebration, there are always problems in this area. From time to time, yes, I would have liked to call you to help us. That was the original plan anyway. The change of tone was putting Quinn slightly on guard. He was ready to unleash his power at any moment. Let me explain, Mundus said, as he once again did the same trick as before, moving and now was standing right next to Old Fex. It was clear this was an intimidation tactic, telling Quinn that if he tried anything, he had all of the hostages here in one place. All of the people he had fought to keep alive, including Layla. You are a byproduct of Imortui. The vampires themselves are merely one of the many demons that he has created. Of course, I'm not saying that his creations are any weaker than him, or that they don't have the potential to be beyond him. Although after facing him recently, I doubt that would ever happen. To get to the point, Imortui and you have a connection. With your power, you are able to make a bridge to connect the two planes. What was called Red Heart in the first place was something that you had created. Listening to where Mundus was going, Quinn wasn't liking it at all, and with everyone around, he didn't know what to do. Honestly, this wouldn't be the decision that I would have made. The Ancient Ones have come to a conclusion. As long as you are free, there will always be a chance that Imortui will be able to cross over. It was as expected, and at this point, all Quinn could do was smile. In the middle of his celebration, was a few days of comfort all that he was allowed? So, you are going against your word. What are you going to do, kill me? Quinn asked. As I said at the beginning, we will follow through and the Celestials will not get involved. As for killing you, now that you are one of us, that wouldn't solve anything. You would simply just be reborn. I'm sorry about this. Watching you has been entertaining for me. Once again, Quinn felt like he was about to leave this place, but then what would happen to the world? True Dream was still out there. There were also still the Dalki in the universe. For now, there was peace, but then what? Would Quinn come back to learn that the whole world had changed once more? Now, will I even be able to come back this time? Quinn thought. I have to do everything in my power to stay. I want to stay. I want to enjoy my time with everyone. Layla, haven't I earned it? Time had once again resumed in the area. The sound of cheering had returned and was shaking the entire stadium. The ringing of the announcement Logan had made had been carried out through the wind, but the cheering had quickly come to a stop. Instead, there were whispers and confused faces as they all looked at each other. Where is he? I can't see him anywhere. I'm sure he was here just a second ago. Another rubbed their eyes. Where is the hero Quinn? As panic started to settle in, those on stage turned their heads in order to look for him. He wasn't on stage, and with a few more announcements made for Quinn to come out, there was still no sight of him. I've sent out the robots to search if he's in the area, Logan stated. I'll check with the reporters to see if anything was caught on camera, AJ added. Upon checking the live stream, though, all they could see was Quinn was there 1 second, and he was gone the next. It wasn't making a lot of sense to them. The world was left puzzled. In a panic, Layla jumped to the stage and stood by Minnie. Minnie, can you connect to your father with your shadow? Closing her eyes, she was just going to see if there was a connection, rather than head to where he was. However, she soon shook her head as tears were filling her eyes, because even Minnie knew that this was bad. Quinn, not again. Are you really doing this after coming back to us? After all that time? What happened to you? Layla said. The island that the chain owned was quite alone.
Some people think that childhood is lost. As long as you know where to look, childhood can always be found.
Large piece of landmass. The thing was, they had only developed one part of the land due to how small their group was. Logan had used the developed land to build the staging area for the ceremony, as what was to be done with the rest of the land still remained undecided. As time was standing still for all those in the area, Quinn was walking through the vast empty land of grass fields and more, following Mundus. His intentions were clear as day before, but where is he taking me? Why are we just walking out to the middle of nowhere? Quinn thought. While they were walking, it did give Quinn one opportunity, and that was to listen out for where time would start far away. Not only did his vampire self have superior hearing, but he could enhance it further by using his key as well. Suddenly, Mundus had come to a stop and turned around. It's a good thing you cooperated. This will make things far easier for us. I wanted to show you that I had no intention of harming the others or using them as hostages. I want you to know that we will keep to our promise, so please. Swinging his hand, what looked like a white door had appeared. It didn't have a solid form. Instead, it looked like it was made from celestial energy or the same substance as the celestial space. What is on the other side of that door? Is it the Ancient Ones? Quinn asked. Maybe he could still complete the quest and ask them not to do this. How powerful were the Ancient Ones anyway? If he asked them to remove his vampire powers and such, wouldn't that be another solution to the problem? But then, how would he fight True Dream? Not quite. Think of this place as similar to your eternal slumber. I promise you one thing, if we ever manage to solve the matter with him or Tui, then we will let you out. Mundus smiled, as if he was talking about something casual, rather than permanent exile for Quinn. Looking back, still not hearing a sound from the crowd, Quinn was starting to think, what would the consequences be for disobeying? Would they attack the others? No, for some reason, although the Celestials do get involved, they don't like taking out mass amounts of lives unless it benefits them. I have more celestial energy right now, right? I can't be so weak compared to the one in front of me. There has to be a trick to his enhanced speed. Quinn walked forward as if he was complying, heading to the door while thinking about all of these thoughts. Now that he was enjoying life, was he going to give it up for the Celestials? What had he been fighting for this whole time then? As Quinn got right next to the door, he reached out as if to push it, and in that moment, activated a skill. Nitro Accelerate activated. With the speed boost allowing Quinn to move at his fastest, he swung his hand toward Mundus. He could see it ready to touch his face until he had disappeared. Not only had Mundus disappeared, but everything around Quinn had turned white. There were no fields, just an endless area of white. That was a close call, but I expected you to do something like this. I won't hold it against you, as it's a natural reaction. A voice echoed as if in a tunnel, making it hard to pinpoint where it was coming from, but there was no person in sight. Honestly, I can see why Athos lost to you. If you and I were to fight outright, then there is a good chance that I would fail as well. Covering his entire arm in red energy, Quinn slammed the ground beneath him, and his aura erupted into a tornado of flames. When the blood aura disappeared, there was no difference to the room at all. "What have you done? Where are we?" Quinn shouted at the top of his lungs with his eyes red. Quinn had been in a similar situation before. The last time it was done by another celestial, Bliss, and when he finally broke out, he was in a different place altogether. This is a special place that was created just for you. In a way, you should be proud of space. What if it was another plane, one that was just completely void of life? I broke out of one of these the last time. I can break out again. Quinn started to gather all of his celestial energy. White light seemed to be growing all around him. His eyes glowed white once more. "Ah!" he screamed at the top of his lungs. The energy shot out from him and hit in all directions. It seemed endless as it covered the entire area. However, unlike the last time, it had done nothing. "I don't understand. I have a lot more energy compared to before. Why hasn't it worked? Unless what I thought was true." This was a place prepared by the Ancient Ones. These areas are made to be inescapable. The Ancient Ones, we don't just listen to them because they are old, but because they have the power to put restrictions on and control the other Celestials, Mundus explained. "If I was you, I would just accept where you are right now. The quicker the better, and don't waste your energy." "Wait, come back!" Quinn shouted as the voice faded, fearing that his only way out was Mundus. There was no reply, and no voice was heard, no matter how much Quinn shouted, so he decided to resort to other methods. Using the shadow was useless. He was unable to link to Minnie for some reason. Pulling out his guns, Quinn fired out every different type of bullet he had. When the Nitro Accelerate cooldown had ended, he reactivated the skill and gathered his celestial energy and his blood aura, creating the most powerful attack he could, hitting the floor, but it still did next to nothing. It can't be that I'm stuck here. I wanted a life. I wanted to spend time with Layla," Quinn shouted in fear that he was going mad as he ran through the space, trying to look for anything that was different in the area. Maybe he could spot a weak point or see something other than all of this white space. In the end, Quinn found nothing, and nothing in his arsenal of powers could help him. Using a shadow, Quinn pulled out the God Slayer crystal. "Are you listening, Ancient Ones? Take this crystal. I'll give you this crystal if we can make a deal. You want it, right?" Quinn lifted it up, but there was no response. Out of all the things he tried, he thought this would succeed. He didn't want to reward the ones that trapped him here or give them something they were looking for, but what choice did he have? Yet they seemed to have truly abandoned him here. For a second, it made Quinn think. Maybe this was how an Immortui was born. Perhaps the Celestials had done something as cruel as this. It would explain his hatred of the Celestials and his efforts in trying to come back. He could understand Immortui's reasons, though he would never agree with the methods. If he had to fight through the Celestials, he'd do it with his own power. Because right now, Quinn was happy to go against them. He was already having thoughts of wanting to give up his fate of being a Celestial, and he had seen things that didn't put them in a good light in the first place. As he sat on the ground, Quinn had put away the crystal. He was trying to rack his brain to see if there was any way out of here at all, anything else he could use. It's been a few hours. I wonder if time has been restored back on Earth. I wonder what everyone is thinking, how worried they must be. Faces of everyone were appearing in his mind. A devastated Layla, a crying Minnie, a Peter that would attempt to destroy the heavens just to get to this place. Who knew? Maybe Syl, Chris, and the other God Slayers of Earth would be able to do something. Thinking of them, it made Quinn smile. A brief, happy moment that just reassured him even more that he needed to get back. While sitting on the ground, a ping was heard, one that sounded as if it had come from his system, but it wasn't his system. It was the Celestial system, and was a message he didn't expect to see right now of all times. "Let me help you," from Bliss.
Dear listener, the upcoming episode will story. Come back tomorrow to enjoy free episodes or get coins now to continue listening.
Accessing Quinn's system was something that he could still do, but that made sense in his mind since the system was a part of Quinn. It had been with him since he had become a vampire, and honestly, without one knowing the equivalent exchange ability, there was perhaps no way of removing it from him either. Not that he would want to do so anyway. In the first place, it had done him more good than not. However, this was why he was slightly confused by receiving a message while he was here. It seemed like Quinn's system was kind of connected to the celestial system in a way. It showed his celestial level, and the guests were linked to his original system as well. Rather than gain a new celestial system, his system had simply evolved with him. One of the things that currently was on display there was a type of quest, although it was more of a message than a quest. In order to unlock his new skills as a celestial, Quinn would need to enter the celestial space, which was why he believed the place he was in right now wasn't the celestial space, even though it felt like it. Regardless of this, Quinn had received a message from the celestial system, the system that all celestials had. Seeing this, rather than concentrate on the message that was being sent, Quinn decided that he would try to enter the celestial space, but it didn't work in the end. Neither did the ability to send messages or see other celestials, yet apparently you could still receive messages. I wish I had some help from others to figure this all out, Quinn sighed. Hey, Alex complained. Did you forget that I'm trapped in the gun? Therefore, I am also here with you. To be honest, with how quiet Alex had been so far, Quinn had somewhat forgotten about him, but unfortunately, he wouldn't be much help in this situation. As for why Alex had been quiet, he could see Quinn was upset and desperate. His words wouldn't have calmed him down, and he wasn't good in this type of situation. What would he even say to him in the end? Pings kept being heard in Quinn's head, meaning there was more than one message sent, but he could see they were all sent by Bliss. He'd only read the first message so far. I have no choice, do I? It doesn't look like I'm going to be able to get out of this one on my own, Quinn said as he opened up the system. Before checking out the messages that had been sent from Bliss, there was another message that had been sent that had nothing to do with that. 620,234 total celestial points. Huh? The number went down. Why is that? Is it something to do with this place? Now there was a slight panic with Quinn seeing this, so he decided that he had to go ahead and read the messages from Bliss. Let me help you. Trust me or not, I know what situation you are in right now. I told you that the best thing to do was to save Erin, but instead, you listened to the Celestials and killed her. Reading the messages was already annoying Quinn. It was almost as if Bliss didn't understand the full picture. Quinn didn't kill Erin because of the Celestials. That was just a byproduct of what had occurred. My ability, I've looked into it, and the path for Earth and the world currently is not a good one. Immortui will rise again, and although the Ancient Ones will be able to stop him, the outcome for the lives on Earth isn't a happy one. Quinn wondered if the Ancient Ones would be able to stop Immortui anyway. Then why was there a need for him to act? Why couldn't they step in sooner if Bliss could warn them before he acted? Then it would be fine. The Ancient Ones, by now, should know Immortui's plan. In fact, the fact that Immortui still was able to cause chaos, even with Quinn stuck in here, frustrated him more. It meant there was no point in him being here. So why? Why didn't Bliss just tell the Ancient Ones what she could see? My prediction was right. Erin had become the divide between the vampires and humans, and I fear it will be the same again. Immortui is not the only one going after Earth. Before he is unleashed, there will be chaos. Another threat? One other than Immortui? Is it Jack True Dream? More than anything right now.